talking about Henry David Thoreau, Hunter S. Thompson, and what I like to call Gonzo-Transcendentalism as well. And I'm not an academic, but a Thoreau enthusiast, so hope you have a fun time. Hunter S. Thompson said, "I hate to advocate drugs, alcohol, violence, or sex to anyone, but they've always worked for me." Pay attention now? He also said, "The edge. There's no honest way to explain it, because the only people who really know where it is are the ones who have already gone over." He also said, "I have a theory that the truth is never told during the 9 to 5 hours." I happen to agree with him. While Hunter S. Thompson wrote about his experiences with the Hells Angels and his drug-held trip to Las Vegas to uncover why the 60s counterculture movement failed, the inventor of Gonzo literature and Gonzo journalism was a brethren of Henry David Thoreau, born a little over 100 years later. Through their use of subjective intuition and by embedding themselves into the narrative as a protagonist, they both analyzed the societies in which they lived, and I think Thoreau's writings form the basis of the beginnings of what we can call Gonzo-Transcendentalism. And in case anyone is still a little like, whoa, what is this Gonzo-Transcendentalism thing, or still wondering about that, perhaps I can provide you with a definition. So Gonzo-Transcendentalism, at least the way I see it, is a style of transcendentalism that is written without claims of objectivity and often with the narrator as part of the story as a protagonist. A subjective, often stream of conscious narrative guides the reader through the story as the author experiences it, thought by thought, seeking self-reliant solutions to problems beyond society and its institutions. Absolutely. So come back to that later. Hopefully that'll be a little clearer how we go on. Gonzo journalism, kind of broadly, is a style of journalism that is written without claims of objectivity, often including the reporter as part of the story via first-person narrative. The author embeds themselves so deeply into the story, they actually become the protagonists in the story. And it draws its power from a combination of social critique and self-satire. And exemplified by Hunter S. Thompson, calling the Kentucky Derby the most depraved place on earth when he covered the Kentucky Derby, and then also when he went to cover a race in Las Vegas, essentially became the main character in a novel that he eventually wrote, that kind of thing. And I actually think Thoreau was actually quite similar. So Thoreau starts off Walden by describing that he will use the word I, kind of the first person. He does this in the second paragraph of Economy when he says, "In most books, the I, or first person, is omitted. In this, it will be retained. That, in respect to egotism, is the main difference. We commonly do not remember that it is often, it is, after all, always the first person that is speaking. I should not talk so much about myself if there were anybody else whom I knew as well. Unfortunately, I'm confined to this theme by the narratives of my experience. I trust that none will stretch the seams in putting on the coat, for it may do good service to him who it fits." Absolutely. And I think, bring one more thing about transcendentalism. Yeah, and so I also think transcendentalism really emphasizes kind of subjective intuition over objective empiricism, which also kind of goes along with Gonzo as well. And what always struck me about Thoreau and his writings was that, for any criticism that could ever be levied at him, Thoreau lived his truth. His writings come from personal experiences that are not abstractions. Thoreau is the protagonist in Walden, and Walden flows from Thoreau. Perhaps this is why Thoreau's writings still resonate with millions around the world today, 200 years after his birth. I guess we're all here as evidence, right? And I think Thoreau's brand of transcendentalism, his first-person experience, everything flows off of what he did, where he actually went out and lived things. It was really unique and kind of sets himself apart from other transcendentalists. That really makes the core of what Gonzo-Transcendentalism really is as well. And so So yeah, and so again, I'm not an academic, mine will be quite short. If you have any questions, we can always go over it later. But again, Gonzo-Transcendentalism is a style of transcendentalism that is written without claims of objectivity, often with the narrator as part of the story as a protagonist. A subjective, often stream of conscious narrative that guides the reader through the story as the author experiences thought by thought, seeking self-reliant solutions to problems beyond society and its institutions. So it kind of goes, it's a stream of consciousness, it's as the author is thinking, you're experiencing it with the author as they go through. And initially I came through this trying to help some 11th grade students get involved in Thoreau. But I think that some of his writings are a little more difficult maybe for maybe the average student to really kind of get into. And so I kind of just shared with them my nature journals where I kind of went out, just described everything that's happening to me. I started commenting on society. You look at a waterfall and suddenly you're talking about the inevitability of evolution in history or some sort of thing like that. Perhaps how we even look back, and I think I was looking at a river once, and I started thinking about how we conceive of time, and that kind of thing, and I had an incredible transformation with students. Suddenly, everyone, all the students were nature journaling, they were really interacting in a way, and so I think that in many ways it's a continuation of what Thoreau did in a more extreme form, but I think it allows each person to really put a strongly individual stamp on their own brand of transcendentalism. They get to kind of make their own, which I think as a rugged individual Thoreau probably would have approved of as well. And so, that's what kind of really where it stemmed from. And, I really do think it is important that we constantly need new interpretations of Thoreau. We need people moving and progressing transcendentalism further because it has a lot of value in society, in my opinion. And so, so that's kind of the basic, very, very brief overview of Gonzo-Transcendentalism. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer them in the Q&A.
Good shape to have questions at the end of all three sessions, and definitely I have some for you. No one else does? Okay. The third speaker is Rebecca Neal Gould, who is a professor at Middlebury in religion and environmental studies. She's written a book about, and I'm having trouble with my own handwriting.
It's called At Home in Nature.
At Home, so that's home. Okay.
At Home in Nature.
All right,
About
At Home in Nature, and it's part of the Back to the Land movement. Okay.
And the one part I would add is that I mentioned. Let's see. I'm also a proud graduate of Concord Carlisle High School. I won't say what class. It does strike me when I come back here that my family, which was not economically well off, could never afford to live here today. But it's lovely to have excuses to come back, and it really is deeply. I just saw a friend in the audience. It is really deeply moving to me when I can come back and actually walk the streets and be by Walden and have this opportunity of